Shalom, everyone, and welcome to week 36 of Coffee and Connection. It is great to see all of you. Wow, there's so many of you here. I'm so excited to really be able to serve you on this call, to be able to, first and foremost, answer any questions that you might have about what it means to be in the Absolutely Feminine program or live absolutely feminine. The program is starting. The official group coaching program starts tomorrow, and I am really standing for anyone, any woman who really feels that this may be the answer for them or that knows this is the answer for them, to have the strength and the courage and the inspiration to and the direction, the help, any help that you may need to be able to step in and say, yes, I want to make this incredible difference to my life. I know this is right for me, and or I want to make sure that this is the right thing for me, because of course only want you to join if you really feel that it is the right decision for you. So any questions that you may have on, is this the right thing for me? How can this work for me? Is really important for me to be able to answer for you. And to just help you out a little, I've invited some of the women who have participated in the program, anyone who's women who have been in the program over the last year or two, to really share with you their experience. Let's see who we have. Anyone who wants to go, the women who are here, just raise your hand that you're ready. So I know I can call on you and just invite them to share with you a little bit of their experience. And then you're welcome to ask them any questions that you might have as well. Okay, so I see that Rachel has raised her hand. So let me find you. There you go. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Baruch Hashem. How are you?
Baruch Hashem, I'm doing well. I just spent 45 minutes in line at the grocery store, so I'm running, but I'm home.
Woohoo!
You got me on my phone.
Yay! Real life, Rachel.
Yes.
We get to hear from you and with your authentic, beautiful, feminine self.
Thank you. So you asked us to share my fear when I signed up last year.
Yeah.
I think I had two fears. One was the money, because I didn't know if it was worth the money. I didn't know if I wanted to spend the money. I don't like spending money unless I need to. So I definitely had a fear about whether I wanted to spend the money, even if it was worth it, and would it be worth it? And
Good
then
questions.
I also had a fear. I guess I had three. I also had a fear about being vulnerable in front of other people, including you. And then my third fear, and I'm so sorry, but it's true. I learned so much from you from the With All Your Heart series last year and your other free courses. And I was like, does she have anything more to teach me? Like, am I really going to get any? I guess it's back to the money, but like, does she have anything more to teach me? So first of all, it was the most transformative year of my life. There was not a single time that I heard you speak that it wasn't life transforming for me. I got my money out. There's not even a question in my mind. Like, now I laugh at the fact that I thought I might not, but it's not just that. And it's not like I'm like, I got my money out and like, that's good. Sorry, my battery is dead. So my video may be in and out, but every class, every course, everything, I learned so much about myself and about how I interact with other people and about my relationship. And then the vulnerability, these women are amazing. I know that it'll be amazing next year too, right? Because anyone that wants to work on themselves, it was amazing. Like, we shared some really, really personal stuff that like you would never sit around and talk about, like even with your closest friends. And everyone was so warm and so accepting. It was such a safe and loving environment. And it really taught me that I can be me and other people will still accept me, and that's okay.
Wow. Rachel, that was so powerful and so amazing. And I'm so honored, and I'm so blessed to have been able to support you in taking that step and joining the program and then really working with you throughout the year. And what do you find? What do you really feel that everything that you learned and all the vulnerability that you've been able to share, what is that made possible in your life? What do you really see, like, in the end of the day, the breakthrough that that's made possible for you?
So I'm a very independent person, but what I didn't realize I was doing is I was waiting for other people to fill me up. And I didn't think I mattered because other people weren't showing me that I mattered in the way I needed it. And I fill myself up now. I have a much better relationship with my husband because I'm not waiting for him or my kids or anybody else to fill me up. But once I really realized that I mattered, I started treating myself like I mattered. And it kind of forced everybody else to treat me like I mattered too. But I didn't realize like I thought I was just like buttoning myself and like doing the right thing, but being like, it doesn't matter if I'm hungry, the kids come first. It doesn't. But I realized that like I was just showing everyone else that they could just walk all over me and nobody meant to. My family loves me, but they treated me the way I treated me. And I didn't like the way they treated me.
Wow. Wow. And by working on yourself and allowing the process to work its magic, right? And to do the work because it's not a magic bullet, right? Now how do you feel treated by your family? How do you feel that you interact with everyone in your life?
I feel like I'm a part of my family. I don't know. I mean, I guess I always felt that, but I didn't. I always felt like I was like the person keeping the time or telling them what to do or making the meals. But now, like, I very much feel like I'm a part of my family in a much more integrated way. It's not like them versus me or them and me. I just, like, I would give to myself the way I would give to my kids now. And before, I honestly wouldn't. Like, I would give to my kids. That's what a mom's supposed to do, but I wasn't giving to my kids from a place of fullness. I was giving to them from a place of resentment, honestly.
Wow. Wow. So when you look back at your initial fears, what would you tell yourself? What would you tell yourself now looking? I know then, as you shared with us so beautifully a few months ago, you just totally trusted me, which was like the most amazing thing. But it now, if you could talk to Rachel a year ago, struggling and scared even after you'd made that decision, what would you tell her today?
I would tell her that we all we all have to work on ourselves in some way. And if I put in the work, then Hashem's going to meet me and he'll make the money happen and he'll make the rest of it be good. But if I don't do my part, no one else is going to do my part. Like, that's it. Everything else can get done by someone else. But my part for me, nobody else can do but me. And I have to do it. I have to put in the work and I have to put in the money and I have to put in, I mean, the trust. I never really like thought about it as a trust thing, but I had to trust you and I had to trust that the other women would, would allow me to be vulnerable and wouldn't judge me and, would understand me and be there.
Mm-hmm. And they were.
And they were 100%. I mean, these women are like, I've never met any of them, and they are some of the closest friends I've ever had. Like, they're just amazing. And it's been like, what an incredible journey to share with them.
Baruch Hashem. Wow, Rachel, thank you so much for sharing that. That is just incredible. And if anyone has a question specifically for Rachel, then you can go ahead and put it in the chat for Rachel. And then after we hear from, from a few other women, Rachel, I'm sure we'll be happy to answer your question, right?
Yes, I'll be on. I'm going to close my video so I can cook because I'm making a shifra and pua meal, but I'm here. So just say my name. I'm going to listen to everything.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much,
so
Rachel.
Chana.
Your vulnerability is very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing. Okay, so let's see who else is here. Toby, are you ready? I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
Okay, firstly, I have to say, Rachel, you did an amazing job, and I totally second everything you said. I could not have said it better. So thank you. You're totally, like, I agree with everything.
Wow. That's one of the amazing things in a group program, right? Is that, like, you may hear someone ask a question or share a struggle or a victory and be like, oh my gosh, I get it now. Or that's exactly what I'm feeling. And I always thought that I was the only one. And those kinds of instances, like, how often do those happen in the group, right? Like, how often did you feel that, would you say?
Sorry, that I'm sorry, could you just say that again? Because
How often did you find that in the group, like where someone would say something, you'd be like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I feel, and I thought I was the only one, or
yeah,
thank you for putting into words what I've always felt and didn't even know how to express.
right, totally, totally. Especially the fact that it's funny because we're a group of women. So sometimes I'll be struggling. Like I have a certain personality similar to somebody's husband, and somebody has a personality similar to my husband. So we get to hear like the other kind of thinking. So I understand my husband's way of thinking through how that lady thinks. She understands her husband through how I think. So that part was very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and then also being coached along with other women, like if I was embarrassed to ask something and then somebody asked it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is an issue for me too. um, and then the biggest thing I think, kind of what you were trying to say is like if I was like really scared to share something really vulnerable and private, and then I finally took the guts to, and other women were like, yeah, this is happening in my life too, like
Yeah.
I have this also, and I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one,
Yeah.
this is normal.
Yeah, I think there was so many times over the course of this year where someone said something saying, "I'm sure I'm the only one who's dealing with this."
Yeah,
And like more than half of the women said, "Me too." Or
right,
women would share something with me saying, I'm not going to put this in the group because I probably am the only one dealing with this. And I'd be like, two other women told me this in the last 24 hours, like crazy stuff like that. And it happens all the time because we think we're alone. And I already know the women who have signed up so far, like many of them have shared such similar struggles that they think they're the only ones. And oh my gosh, it's amazing how when you know you're not alone, what that allows you to really work through and have the strength to accomplish,
right.
right?
And the biggest fear is thinking that I'm alone, so nobody can help me because this is just my issue. I'm the only one in the world. And somehow, once we know that, oh, other people have it also, then, oh, so they learned how to deal with it, or there are ways we can all learn how to deal with it. I think taking away that loneliness feeling, just that we're all in it together, is so huge. It's the biggest support that I could ever get.
Yeah. Yeah. And were you scared to join a group? Let me ask you, Toby, like, how did you feel about joining a group of other women and doing this vulnerable work?
So it was very scary. Um, and also I felt also in a way like alone, like we're all different from all different walks of life. So first I thought like, hey, we're all so different, I'm not even going to understand them, they're not going to understand me. And the funny thing is that although we all come from completely different states, different parts of the globe, different lifestyles, at the end of the day, we all want the same things. We all want love and joy and happiness and connection and safety, and we have so much more in common than we have differences. And it's
Hold
funny.
on, I'm trying to listen to a class and I'm making food.
Rachel, I'm going to mute you.
Sorry.
It's okay. If I have to find you. Okay, here we go. Oh, she muted herself. Okay, go ahead, Toby.
So the thing that was the scariest, like being together with other women and them looking into my life, sort of, ended up being, I think, like the safest feeling, because I felt like I'm not alone. Like somehow when we're one on one with a therapist, we could sometimes feel like, yeah, this is only my problem. And the therapist is never going to tell you who else is struggling with it. They're not allowed to. And here, being with other women, it's just such a safe feeling to know I'm not alone. They're struggling together. We're in this together. So many of us have like similar issues. Nobody's is the same, but they're similar in their unique way. And we could all like lean on each other in a good way and get support from each other. It was huge. It was really
Amazing. Amazing. It is so powerful. And I know there's so many fears that women have about joining a group. And it's amazing how when I asked all of you, what did you feel when you joined the group? Like, and how you all said, I was so terrified. And within like 5 minutes, within 2 days, within, so quickly you realize that, wow, this is where the real growth is going to happen is because we have this group. And what I love so much is that even when we have our one-on-one calls and I say, if you feel comfortable sharing something in the group, sharing a takeaway that you think other women can benefit from, how when a woman does that, how the feedback that she gets from the other women is so like even what you could keep private, women realize the power of sharing if they want to because you see the power of the group. You see how that aids in really accomplishing so much in your own growth.
right. And Hannah also set up the group in such a way that it's very safe. It's private. It doesn't go anywhere. It's just between us. There's a certain safety. And it's just also like Rachel was saying, we share the kind of things that we would never dream of sharing with anybody. And the love that we get and the support that we get, it's just incredible. It's really like to be able to open up in that way and to see that you're still loved and you're still accepted. It's just, it's more powerful than anything, I think.
Wow. Wow. Toby, thank you so much. And when you think back, again, I'll ask you what I asked Rachel. When you think back a year ago to like how terrified you were, what would you say was your biggest fear? And how would you now reassure Toby from a year ago?
Okay, so hands down, my biggest fear was the money. I was sure we can't afford this. It's just, I'm not used to spending money on myself. This never happened before. It was the money for sure. And then like my biggest takeaway, I would say, is that I learned that I matter, that my needs are important. Like I was so busy just pushing myself under the rug. And just to learn that I'm allowed to take up space, I'm allowed to take up money, that my needs matter, my life matters. And I'm learning, I'm still in this process, but I see that money is more of a mindset. It's not so much of a reality because people spend on things that they feel is important to them. It happens, just so happens to be, one second, someone's coming in. Not now, please. Okay. It just so
Because you
happens
matter.
that quite a few of us shared, and it was interesting that a few of us had like husbands that were out of a job for a while and they found a job, or somebody's husband got a raise. My husband got a second job. So really the money paid itself out, and it wouldn't have happened if not for this group, because I used the information from this group and we had a conversation about it. And that's what led, one thing led to the other. So, firstly, I have to say that money is an investment, and I'm allowed to spend it on myself because I'm worthy. We all are worthy. You're all worthy. And also that it's interesting that it does pay itself back realistically, even many times, because this program, what I'll say is that basically our thinking is what got us to where we are right now in our life. So if we want to change anything in our life, we have to change our thinking, right? So this program helps me change my thinking, which is opening up doorways, which could be doorways to money, doorways to connection, doorways to, fulfilling, joyful life, whatever kind of doorways you want to open up to. And you might not even know what those doorways are, because I was surprised along the way. I got different stuff out of it than I thought I'll get. But yeah, that's what I would tell myself. You matter, you are worthy. And like Rachel said, we have to do ours. Hashem is going to do the rest. We have to put in our shtadlos, which means, jumping, putting my fear aside and saying, this is worth it. I'm worth it. I matter. And if I want to change something, I need to do something different and get different information. So this was just unbelievable. Thank you.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Toby, it was amazing. You are amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that and being so vulnerable. Because your fears are other women's fears, right? As we've talked about, and it can be so powerful to know, no matter what decision you're looking to make, that you're not alone in your fears and that the answers are out there. The answers may even be here, right? So thank you so much for sharing and being vulnerable. You're amazing. Amazing. Okay, let's see who else is on today and wants to share. Go ahead and raise your hand if you didn't tell me in advance that you wanted to share. I'm going to invite Shira to share with us a little. I think I asked. You have to hit to unmute. Shira, as many of you have spoken to, Shira has actually been in the Absolute Feminine program for 2 years. And I mean, I'll ask you first, Shira, if you want to share anything about your fears in joining and what you would say to yourself now. I'm looking for you. Probably as soon as you start talking, you're going to show up on my screen. There you are.
Hi. I ran to my room and my daughter was in my bed, so I had to take her out.
Okay, amazing. So what would you share? Is there anything specific that you want to share? I know we also were going to get into a little bit about some of the questions that you've been hearing from women and some of the concerns that women have, and I want to be able to answer them. Cher's been doing an amazing job in supporting so many of you. And before we get into that, do you remember some of the fears that you had before you joined? The first year, the second year, what would you say was like really causing you a lot of fear?
So I just want to start out with something really funny because last night I was speaking to someone and afterwards I said, you know what? I think I need to write down like where I was holding 2 years ago because I can't even remember. I mean,
That's a
the life
breakthrough.
is so different. It's just, I don't even remember it. And I know it was bad. I mean, I know the relationship had a lot of difficulties. So it's not like, oh, it's such little things, it's huge things. And it's just unbelievable how when you're in a moment, it could feel like you're never going to get out of there. You're so stuck. And when you're not, it's just how your mind just plays so much tricks on you, how you could just forget so fast.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's amazing. Should we share a little what we were talking about on our mastery call today about your victories? If you're comfortable, you can say no.
Yeah, that's fine.
I remember so clearly when the program first started. It was Chol Hamoed Sukkos. I was at a park with my kids. I remember this so vividly. And I listened to a message of Shira talking about how whenever it's vacation, whenever it's chofesh, chalamoid, summer, whatever, she's all on her own with her kids, and her husband's just doing his own thing. And she was like, he never does anything with us, and will he? I don't think he's ever going to do anything with me. And then I was laughing because today, at the beginning of our mastery call, she. I saw her on the video in the car. She wasn't driving, which means that she's with her husband on some type of trip with the kids. And I always want to like get up and like dance like circles around her when that's happening, because that's like a little big victory, right? The little things that cause us so much pain, that like we feel we're alone, we feel like this will never change, and then when that does change, when we can point to like the little victories, we know that our relationship is in a completely different place than it was before.
Yeah.
So what would you like to share? What would you say to yourself 2 years ago, or anything you want to add on to that? I don't want to just put you on the spot and share that with without your input. It was so powerful today. So what would you say about that?
I just also want to say that like listening to the women who just shared, it's just like I'm so awed by them and how everybody takes away so many different things and how you can just so much you can gain in such a short amount of time. And also looking at them and being like, I would never have the guts to get on a call and have people see me and talk in front of people. And I'm like, no, I'm also doing that. You gave like you brought out the me in me that was always just sort of, hiding in the corner. It's true.
Oh my gosh, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard.
Really?
Oh my gosh, I love that. You brought out the me in me. I want to like make a mug that says that, like bring out the me in me, or I don't know. It's just so beautiful. Oh my gosh. And what has become possible in your life since you brought out the you in you?
Um, I guess everything almost. It's just going through my life and even just things like dealing with my kids' teachers and used to just being quiet and now knowing that I could really like respond and not be, quiet, or appointments I'm having for my kids and, being told something and being okay with disagreeing with them and not just like basically just taking life like as is.
Yeah. Yeah. And besides for your husband going with you on trips with the kids, what else have you seen has been made
Right.
possible in your home and in your relationship?
So
Because that other
one
stuff is
thing,
amazing and it's so important also. I'm not
yeah,
discrediting that at
yeah.
all.
So I think one big thing that you taught was really powerful is that like different isn't wrong. And it's just to see your husband in a different light. Like we almost always walk around with a magnifying glass under our husband. And it's just funny because like it's the closest person to us in our life. And like we should really be cheering them on. And instead we're like, I imagine myself always walking around like X, X. And like now it's just not in my mind. It's like I am his cheerleader. I do forget sometimes, but that's very powerful to just see my husband in a powerful light, and to be able to have that communication with him that I didn't have before, which I'm still majorly working on, but it's changed.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. And I know that as you've been speaking to the women and helping them just like understand what the program is about and dealing with any questions that have been coming up for them, there's been a few themes, right? There's been a few things that you've heard a few times. And we know that if, as we said before, if even one person has a question, but definitely if 2 or 5 or 10 women have a question, we know many other women have the same one. So at this point, I do want to give the opportunity for anyone who has other questions. You're welcome to put it in the chat, and you could put Chana or Rachel or Toby or Shira specifically if you want to ask it to one of them. And Shira, what would you say are some of the biggest questions that you've been hearing, so that I can, guide or give some answers to help women if that is their question as well?
Yeah, so one of the main things which Rachel and Toby answered about being in a group and the vulnerability. So I feel like that was a main question, and they really were helpful with answering that, I hope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
Another question came up a lot was about, you had another coffee and connection about it, just feeling um, just not able to give of themselves anymore because they so much worked on themselves, to feel like they can do another program and to be able to give more to the marriage.
Yes, yes. This is such an important question because so many women, especially because they spent a lot of times like working on the marriage, trying to get the marriage better, giving so much to the relationship that they feel like exhausted to even try something different. And how will this be any different than any other program that I've done that hasn't worked, right? So that's a really important question. I'm going to say 2 things. First is, when you think of the programs you've done before and you say they haven't worked, so I'm going to invite you to really ask yourself as clearly and as specifically as possible, what specifically did not work for me? Right? What specifically did not work in that program, or what was still missing? What did I still feel I didn't get? So that can then help you, and perhaps us, if you want to ask one of us, how is this program different? Then we'll know exactly how to answer that question. One of the things I hear a lot from women in this question is that they've learned so much. They've learned so much. They've gone to so many shiurim. They've done so many workshops. They listen to so many podcasts. They've read so many books, and it just doesn't make a difference, or it lasts for a few days and then it's gone, right? It doesn't end up creating real change. And how is this program different? Is that this is not just a class. This is not a shiur. This is not a course, right? This is a full support, high level coaching program where you are not just getting information, but you are learning the skills, learning the kinds of questions to ask yourself to change the way you think, and getting supported throughout the whole thing. I am there in your pocket, supporting you for the entire year. Now, some women also get worried about this group. Like, what does that mean? Are women just going to be like telling each other what to do and sending like happy go lucky, forwards to each other? Absolutely not. Let me just tell you that I am very clear on the way the program works. The group is very, very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Focused, right? We don't send forwards, we don't send extra stuff, and you are there to kind of be there for each other, but not to give each other advice, right? It is not, we want to have everyone's there to be guided in the Absolutely Feminine program and the Absolutely Feminine system. And so you're there to hold each other and to support each other, but not to guide each other, right? That you have me in there all the time guiding you. Shira's going to be there helping out as well. So you'll have extra support this year. It's going to be amazing. I am there in your pocket. I'm there helping you every day know what to say, how to break through this plateau that you've hit in your relationship. What can you say? How can I deal with my anger? I'm struggling implementing this new skill. I'm so stuck. How do I keep moving forward? And it's like practically knowing what to say, how to handle that challenge so that you can really have the ability to move forward. You don't have to feel stuck, right? Because that's like the worst feeling in the world, right? And does anyone else, anyone who's in the group, anyone want to pipe in on how this program is kind of different than any other program that you may have done before, any other type of method, just so women have an idea of why this is different?
Also, Chana,
Yeah.
people want to know how like it lasts. And I think also like women can share with that.
Well, you've been doing it for 2 years, right? So I know recently someone told me, "Oh, I've been doing a something with their diet for 2 years." And I was like, "If you've been doing it for 2 years, it's real. That's not some like thing you're going to do for 6 months and then stop doing it." So Cheryl, what would you say about how does it stick?
What I was sharing with other women was that because of the way the WhatsApp group works, it's constantly a part of your life. So if you have a question of a fight that happened or a scenario even that happened with an outsider or with your children, you bring it to the group and then you're there to answer it. So it's literally worked in through your life. Like it's not just some class you're giving over and then you walk away. You're constantly putting it in your life and changing things. And then I feel like that's how it stayed.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Baruch Hashem. Rachel, you had something you wanted to add to that? Yeah? Okay, do I ask you to unmute? 1 second. There we go.
So I know you guys have like been beating around the bush, but like I'll just explicitly say it. When Chana says like she's in your pocket, we are on the WhatsApp. Like some women are like post a question once every few months. Most of us post like 4 or 5 or 6 questions a day. Chana literally is giving in-depth answers daily. It's not like it's a once in a while thing. And like some people post like very deep questions, right? But sometimes it's like, my husband and I are in a fight. I'm mad about this. What do I do about this specific thing right now? Like there is really very active right now, real time, big picture, and also just small picture. Like, I don't want to get in a fight about this, but I'm so mad. Help me. And Chana's there. It's amazing.
Baruch Hashem. Amazing. Thank you.
You really like, I didn't understand when you told me you were going to be in my pocket last year. I didn't understand, like, you really meant like I got to talk to you daily. Like, that was awesome.
Baruch Hashem. That I know for me in my life, having a coach that I can send a message to at any time, that is like the biggest difference. Like that is what makes a difference between this coaching program and any other type of program that you may have done in the past, because you don't have to wait to get on a call in order to get your questions answered. You don't have to hope that you'll be one of 600 people on a call that will be lucky enough to have their hand picked. It's a small group that you get to know each other very well, and even if you don't get your question answered on our Zoom calls, you can always go in the group and post your question there, and you may get even a more in-depth answer there, right? There's always the option to ask questions and get the support and get the help that you need, which is, it's a completely different type of program. And just going back, I want to remember, Shira, exactly. There was another part of the question. How is this different? And what was the other part of the question? Just so I remember. Make sure I answer it.
The question that I just brought up?
Yeah, the question that you shared.
Oh, how is it different? How is it gonna last? Oh no.
It was a good one. Oh no, it was a good question. It's gonna come to us. It's gonna come to us. It was a really good question. Okay. If anyone remembers, you can post it in the chat. Okay, so let's move on to the next question that you've heard a lot, and then we'll hopefully remember it and come back to the other part of the question.
So a lot of people have been mentioning they're dealing with something major in their life now, and they feel like maybe it's not the right time to start the program.
Right. Okay, that's a really important question. And that could be a million things. It could be you're moving, it could be you're having a baby, it could be you're newly pregnant, it could be you're newly married, could be you are dealing with all sorts of different challenges. I mean, I think when we started the program last year, one woman was like, her and her whole family had corona, right? Other women, we've had women give birth over the course of the program, deal with pregnancy, women deal with amazing things and very difficult things. And here's the thing, I think we all really understand this from the last year and a half. Often when things are challenging, that's when we tell ourselves, I don't have time for the extras. I don't have time to take care of myself. I don't have time to learn something new. I don't have time to invest in something, right? And Toby said, took the words right out of my mouth. She wrote, personally, I feel that when we are going through major life challenges, that is exactly the time to join. And that's exactly what I was going to say, right? What's the best way to deal with Corona, right? Shira, if you remember when Corona first happened, you were first year, right? And so did we have less calls? No, the opposite. We added in extra calls. We started Zooming instead of being on the phone. Can you remember before there was Zoom, before we used Zoom? And Toby says, this support is what carries me through my biggest challenges. 100%. It's like, I remember once speaking to a woman and she said, well, like, how's the program going to work? Like, are we going to take a break during Nissan? And I was like, no, isn't that when you need the most support, right? We need the most support in the most crazy times of our lives. So yes, I definitely structure it so that we don't have a call the week before Pesach or during Pesach. So we structure it so like, the week before, which already in my calendar says Pesach, and the week of Pesach, we're not having a call, but we're still on the group. We're still asking questions. We're still there to support each other. And I remember specifically this year, we all set a very powerful intention the day before Pesach. I came in the group and I said, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to be in here answering questions. I don't know how many of you are going to be able to ask questions, but let's set an intention of who we are going to be over the next, 12 hours or whatever it was. And the response after Pesach, and women wrote the most amazing things. And after Pesach, the messages that I got saying how that Pesach was so different than every other Pesach that they've ever had in their lives, that they ever thought was possible, was so amazing. And it really, really contrasted with so many other messages that I got the week of after Yantif of women who had struggled through Erev Pesach with so much challenge and so much pain. And so when things are really challenging, that is when we need support. That is when we most need people behind us, helping us and guiding us and telling us that we are not alone, right? Erev Shabbos is not the day you need no self-care. It's the day you most need your self-care. And in self-care, I'm not just talking about having a cup of coffee or taking a nap. I'm talking about knowing you're not alone, the gift of having support and guidance so that you can go through the challenge being the woman that you want to be and living the life that you want to live. Because let's be honest, where our life is created, the culture in our home is created through the day-to-day moments and those and how we deal with our challenges and how we deal even in the simchas. There's going to be challenge, right? How many times, Baruch Hashem, are you making a simcha? And I've had women share with me, I know every simcha comes with fights. Every simcha comes with challenges. And by using the skills, the difference that's made so that you can enjoy the simcha, so that you can go through the challenges together, right? We had a very, very powerful share over the last few weeks in the group of a woman saying that she went through a very, very big challenge, a very big scare in her family. And Baruch Hashem, her and her husband were able to go through it holding hands, to go through it together. And that is one of the biggest goals of this program, is that you and your husband, no matter, in the ups and downs of life and the challenges of life and the amazing things of life that come with their challenges, that you can go through it together, that you can deal with it together, that you can, even when things go down, how to get them back up much more quickly and much more efficient, like much more easily than you may have been able to in the past, right? Shira, do you have anything you'd want to add to that?
No, I think that's perfect. And I was also thinking when you were talking about Corona that I had Corona and my whole family was in Bijuda for a long time. My husband never got it, so he was in the house for 2 weeks. And everyone kept asking me, like, isn't your husband going crazy? How is he managing? And I kept like thinking, like, why does everyone think that like my life is falling apart? Like, I am fine. And it was amazing. I was fine because of all the tools that Chana gave to me.
Wow.
And we look back at that and we just kind of laugh together. Actually, I think last night we were talking about it, like how we really managed that plan, Hara. Like,
wow. Baruch Hashem. That is amazing. I've never played the song like publicly because, like, anyways, the video's kind of racy and whatever. But there's this amazing song that I've shared with my groups about that a Israeli couple wrote during Corona, and every time I listen to the song, I cry. Like, I can't not cry because it's the most beautiful song about how, everything is crazy. We're climbing the walls, like, we don't know what's going to be, but with you, even the end of the world doesn't scare me because we're together. And Baruch Hashem, the blessing of being able to feel that, the blessing of being able to go forward in your life, even when the world feels like who knows what's happening, right? In the video, they're like in the middle of nowhere and they're all alone, and yet they're together. And when we can feel that we are together in our challenges, that we can look back at things like Corona and like smile and say, oh, isn't that crazy how we all were locked up in that little apartment together and it was fun? Like, our kids remember it so fondly, is like such a bracha, an unbelievable bracha. So I'm so honored that the two of you are able to have experienced that together. Baruch Hashem. Okay, any other big questions that you felt come up? I feel like there was one more that you shared with me that a lot of women asked
money
you.
has been a major one.
Money is a big one, right? Money is a big one. And I always say I don't like to talk about the numbers on a call because people have such money stories, right? We talked about that today in our mastery call. Such big stuff comes up when we talk about money. And what I will say is like this: it is an investment. 100% is an investment, and I do not take that investment lightly. Okay, like I said, this is not a sheer, this is not a workshop. This is a year-long, high-intensity coaching program, and like we said, you have me in your pocket, and so it's an investment, but we do not take that investment lightly. And I am there for you. And we always have to ask ourselves, right, what really scares me about making the investment? What is it that what really makes me feel like I can't make it? If it's like literally I don't have it, that's totally understandable. Coffee and Connection will always be here for you every week. Please God, please God. And with all your heart, please God, we'll be back next year, right? There's always, I always want to be able to support you. And if what comes up for you is fears like, how can I spend money like that on myself? Or is it really going to work for me? Is it really worth it? Is it really going to make a difference for me? That's when I invite you to, get really curious with those questions and perhaps make a time to speak to me or Shira, perhaps even just reach out to one of us, send us an email. You can even reach out to me on WhatsApp. I sent you the number in the email that went out today. the first email that I sent out today, the powerful email that my husband wanted to share with you and your husbands, but also with you, right? For you to understand the difference that this work can really make in a relationship. We talk a lot about the the uh, mo- the um, the transformation that we ourselves can have, and it's unbelievable and it's amazing. And I always really feel like doing this work is really my avoda in this world. It is exactly what we are working through all the barriers that really get in the way of really serving Hashem with all our heart, being like finding the me in me, all of that stuff. And I also know that many of you are here because you want to have better marriages and better relationships and happier homes and warm, safe cultures in your home and in your family. And I want that for you too. And so you're definitely able to reach out to either of us so we can answer those questions and perhaps get on a call quickly to help you figure out if this is the right fit for you and will this make a big difference for you. And really just to keep in mind, as much as it is an investment, how quickly you would make that investment for your child, right? How quickly you would allow yourself to spend that on something for the family. And what I can promise you, and I hear from women who did the program 3 years ago, and they still tell me the difference that this work has made for them, not just in their relationship with themselves and not just in the relationship with their husbands, but the difference they see it making in their relationships with their kids, who their children are growing up to be, the way their children are interacting with their spouses. And it's a gift that you're giving not just to yourself and to your husband, but to your children and your grandchildren and your great grandchildren. Tzetzeinu, b'tzetzei tzatzeinu, be'ezrat Hashem. It is mamish such a difference of what you're teaching about who you're being and how to go through life. And so, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're happy to have those conversations with you and help you figure out if this really is the right investment for you. Anything you want to add to that, Shira?
No, I think that was perfect. And I'm sure you answered this already, but I think maybe if you could touch on this. A lot of people want to know, like, what's the difference between going to marriage counseling or a program like this? Like, what's the pros and cons of something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I can't speak for all marriage therapy. I can only talk about the ones that I went to. And I'm sure that there are, I always say I can't really tell you what another program has that what they don't have that I have, or what they have that I don't have, because I only really know this program as well as I do. What I can tell you is some of the differences. First of all, like we said, you don't have to wait to be in a session to get help. You don't have to wait to be on a call or be in the therapist's office to get your questions answered and to get guidance, right? And that's great, not just because you get your guidance as often as you want, but that means that when we do get on our calls, when we get on our group coaching calls, and when you get on your one-on-one calls, we don't have to be putting out the fires. We put out the fires all the time on the WhatsApp. And so the sessions are very focused on either doing deep internal work that's getting in the way, the stuff that's getting in the way, or on really learning new concepts and new ideas and new mindsets so that there's less fires to put out. Right. I always love to share that in the beginning of the program, every year, everyone's keeps asking, when are we going to get to communication? When are we going to get to talking about difficult things and talking about how to deal with difficult issues and bringing up difficult things? And I always say, don't worry, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. And there's a lot of foundations that we have to get there so that whatever I teach you actually can work. Right. And yes, don't worry, throughout the year, when you have difficult situations, I coach you on it. But when we really get there in depth, which is 7 months down the line or something like that, I'm always like, okay, let's share some difficult situations that you might have, that what's something that's really hard that you want to be able to tell your husband. And sometimes there's just silence. Thank God so many of those issues they're not issues anymore, or they don't feel like this huge mountain of I have no idea how to deal with this. It's okay, I there's less of that stress, less of that feeling of how am I going to say this, less of like, oh my gosh, these horrible things I need to communicate about, because we've been doing the foundational work. So the amazing thing about this type of program, not only because you get to see everyone else's fires put out also and get to see everyone else's deep work happening, but because we get to deal with the challenges as they're coming up, our calls, like when you do come into quote unquote the office, really get to go deep and really get to be really mind like game changing, right? And the other difference, and again, I can't speak for every marriage therapist, but a lot of times I hear from women that the challenge they have in going to marriage therapy is that they often feel like they have to defend their husband, that the marriage therapist is telling them there's no hope. I can't believe he did that. That's so horrible. Or they feel like if they're going together, that it's always one against the other. Like they're each trying to get the other therapist on their side. And it doesn't feel safe. It's not creating safety in the relationship. And I will tell you from this moment that I will always stand for you and your husband, that you are both good people with challenging situations, with not healthy patterns that you need to work through, but you're good people. And I stand for that in the group. Sometimes a woman will share something, and maybe anyone wants to comment on this, a woman will share, my husband did X, Y, and Z, and women will be like, I can't believe he said that. That's horrible. I can't believe you're dealing with that. And I'll come in and I'll say like, okay, it's horrible that you felt that way, and it's not nice to be treated that way. And right, let's try to understand why your husband might have done that. And because in the end of the day, this is your husband that you married, and we could stand there and agree with you. I always tell my clients, and I got this from my coach, I could agree with you, right? I could just be like, yeah, you're right. He's such a jerk. He's such a loser. Like, why can't, but you know what? That's not what you're paying me for. That's not what you're here for. You're here because you love your husband and you want to have a good relationship with him. Otherwise, you would not be here. I believe that so strongly, and I will always stand for you and your husband's greatness. And we will all do that together. Stand for each other's greatness, stand for each other's husband's greatness, because in the end of the day, you chose him and he chose you, and you're together in this relationship, and you are here to make that work, right? You're not here if you don't want it to work. If you wanted to just walk away, you could have done that. You can do that, but you're here. And so I will stand for you, and I will stand for your husband. I will hear you. I will, yes, it's really hard when our husband does something jerky, but that doesn't make him a jerk, right? Is that something that you would want to comment on?
Yeah, I've had you write things to the group, and I wanted to like message you quietly and ask you how you could answer that to that woman. Honestly. But now I see that, like what you just said was so beautiful. Like it's true. Like that's what we're doing. Like that's what I was trying to explain about walking around and making those X's on my chart. Like it's not the way we're supposed to be looking at our husbands. Like he is our closest person in the entire world. Like we have to be looking at him with the best rose-colored glasses ever.
Yeah, yeah. And let's also be very clear, because I know that's not what you meant, like very clear that we do not go into this group making like everything's perfect and everything's good and just have a moon on, be positive and be right? If you've been here on Coffee and Connection before, you know that we are very into being real and being honest about how we feel and being vulnerable and being just real and authentic about what hurts us and what bothers us. And so we'll always do that, right? I'll always tell you first to honor where you're at and honor what hurts you. And then we can start the healing process, right? And then we can start moving forward. So there's no it's not all like, let's just all go into this pretending that everyone's perfect and everyone's husbands are perfect. We're not, right? No one is. And that's part of what we have to remember, right? That nobody's perfect. And through that, that's one of the ways I think that we can really stand for each other's greatness in a very authentic way.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, any other questions? Did we remember the beginning of the first question? Or the
Did
I
it
think it was
have
like
to
the
do with
first part.
having resentment towards your husband or something like that?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Amazing. Okay. So let's say you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I've done so much work on my marriage. I've tried so hard. I've been so giving, and I'm just so full of resentment and I'm so full of frustration. 100%. I hear you. And I want you, first and foremost, to stop giving, to stop working so hard on your marriage, because when you're doing that so hard and you're totally forgetting about you and you're not feeling like I matter, that's only going to create resentment and frustration, and that is poison to your marriage. And that is why in the first few months of Absolutely Feminine is all about you, is all about valuing you. Because here's the thing, in a relationship, you cannot have a healthy relationship, a safe relationship, if you don't matter, right? A healthy relationship is this crazy balance where I matter and you matter and we matter all at the same time. It's not only I matter, forget you. And it's not only you matter. So whatever you need, I don't want to upset you. I don't want to bother you. I don't want to make you angry at me. I don't want you to be disappointed in me. And it's not just we matter, like just always be mavater and give for the marriage. You all know that doesn't work. It doesn't work. It just creates resentment and frustration. And for many of you, that's likely why you're here right now. The only way for a healthy marriage, healthy communication, a healthy sex life, a healthy, safe, warm home to be manifest is if I matter and you matter. And if you've been giving, 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 like there's a part of you that totally knows how much he matters, but you also may have a lot of resentment towards that. And so we spend the very first few months. Of course, if you're having a problem in your marriage, you put it in the WhatsApp group and I help you with it. I don't say, no, we're only working on ourselves right now. Like I said, we put out the fires whenever the fires come up. I shouldn't say that because right now there's like a huge fire going on in Israel. Hashem Yishmor. Like any challenges that are coming up, we deal with those challenges. But our focus is very much on building ourselves up and making sure that we know how much we matter. And when we feel that, by the way, it is so much easier to actually feel like he matters. Not he matters because I'm scared of him. Not he matters because I'm scared of disappointing him or I'm scared of being an awful wife. I'm scared of what people will think. But he matters because I love him. He matters because I respect him. I can get there if I know that I matter because I love myself and I respect myself. And so that by the time we get to the part in the program where we're dealing with our husbands, a lot of that resentment will have already started to subside because you've been giving yourself space at the same time. You've been giving yourself space, right? You've been giving yourself permission to matter. And that's why often joining the program in the first place is like a huge breakthrough on its own, right? Like I matter. I know women have told me in previous years and already this year, women have said just signing up for the program has already made a huge difference in my marriage. Huge. And that is so understandable because you're telling yourself, you're telling your husband, I matter and you matter to me because I'm investing in this idea. Now, some women don't tell their husband it's about marriage because the men may feel disrespected. So they just say it's about them. And that's still 100% true. 100% true. So one of the questions you didn't bring up, but I think is an important one that I'm sure you've heard a lot is how do I share this with my husband, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes, it was.
So definitely that email that my husband and I wrote together 2 years ago, and I just always come back to because it's so powerful. Can be very powerful. Some women share it with their husbands. Some women use it as inspiration of how to speak to their husbands about the program. I always say, if you go to your husband saying, I want to do this program, but I'm scared. In any way, I'm scared of the time, I'm scared of the vulnerability, I'm scared of the money, I'm scared of changing, I'm scared of what you're going to say. So here's the thing, your husband loves you. And part of the fact that he loves you means that he doesn't want you to, he wants to protect you. He wants to protect you. So if you go to your husband scared, he's going to try to protect you by taking away the source of the fear. And what will he say? So don't do the program. No, don't do the program. The program is scaring you. So here's what I invite you to do. If you do decide that you'd like to do the program, before you talk to your husband, sit down with a piece of paper and ask yourself, why do I want to do this now? Okay. Why do I want to do this now? What do I believe that this will make possible for me? What do I believe that this will allow into my life? Why do I want to do this? And then when you speak to your husband, speak to him from that space of why I want to do this, right? What difference do I feel it's going to make in my life? Why does this excite me? And here's another thing, okay? You don't have to go asking for permission, right? Because part of what we talk about is I matter and you matter, and we are equal to each other. Now, of course, and I totally acknowledge this, me and my husband have the same thing. We don't make big decisions like this on our own for the most part. Some couples do, and that's fine. Or some women find another way to do it because they know that their husbands, it's better if their husbands don't even know they're doing it. It just feels safer to them, and that's fine. If you feel that you need your husband to be on board with you, okay, that's very different than asking him for his permission, right? It's not, can I do this? Instead, what I invite you to do is to inspire him in your vision, right? Let him know the difference that you feel this is going to make for you. And by the way, your husband might grumble. He might say, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. How are we going to afford that? How are we going to do this? Do you really think you need to do this? Why can't you just keep going on the weekly classes? Why do you have to actually join? That's when you can say, I know, you're right. It is a lot of money. Or I know, it is scary. And then you go right back into your vision. This is the difference that it will make for me. This is what I believe it will allow me to accomplish. And to stand in your vision and inspire him to come on board with it, even though it's scary, right? Knowing that you matter and your desires also matter. Anything you'd like to add to that, Shira? I know you've had these conversations with your husband before. Anything you'd like
I
to
think
add?
that's perfect. I'm trying to actually remember that conversation. I don't remember it. But yeah, he was the last person I would think that would agree to it. And then the second year he was like, I thought for sure like it wasn't even a conversation. He's like, no, of course you could do it.
Wow. Yes. It's amazing. We can be so sure what our husbands are going to say that like we make up a whole story inside of our heads of what our husband, oh, I know he's going to say this, I know he's going to say that. And women have written to me that like just having that conversation with their husbands, knowing that the two of them could kind of like get on board together, is already a breakthrough that they had in joining the program. So you never know. You never know. And that's why you want to be really, just be very mindful how you're expressing it. This is not about manipulation. Chas v'shalom, I'm not into manipulation. You know, I think it's very disrespectful to manipulate your husband. I'm talking about just being authentic and authentically coming with why you want to do this instead of why it scares you. Because yeah, there's things that scare us about everything. But if we let our fears, you know, what do we want to be driving the bus? Our fears or our desires, right? Our fears, and this is a very powerful idea, any new thing, and I just want to say this to everyone because you may be like feeling some fear right now. And we see fear sometimes as a bad thing. Sometimes we see fear as like Hashem telling us we shouldn't do something even. But here's the thing. Everything that we do that involves change, so any step forward that we take in our lives is going to involve fear because our brains don't like change. Change is scary because it's unknown. So anytime we're taking a step forward in our lives, it's going to involve change and unknown, and our brain will respond with fear to try to get us to not do it. That's not our soul talking to us. That's our animal brain talking to us. And what we get to do, right? We can tune in like, okay, is this some type of intuition that's different? But just feeling fear is a very normal part of the change process. And sometimes you know that what you're about to do, and this is so true for everything I've done in my life that has made such a difference, definitely signing up for my first coaching program, continuing with my coach every year. The first time I even went to meet, like the terror that I felt every time I did something like that. When I started Absolutely Feminine, the fear that I had. And yet, knowing that those experiences that were the most scary in my life are the ones that pushed me forward and allow me to become more of the woman that I want to be, the woman that bring out the me in me, right? Fear is always going to be there when we're moving forward. And so what I invite you to do is to feel the fear, not just feel the fear and do it anyways. Feel the fear and feel the fear and reframe that in your mind as excitement for the possibilities moving forward, as excitement for the potential, knowing that if I'm scared, it must mean that change is ahead. It must mean that there's growth here. It must mean that I actually can use this to create something different in my life, and to believe that you absolutely can. You absolutely can create change moving forward. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to post in the chat, again, I'm sure you have my email, right? You could just hit reply to any email that I've sent, this email, anything, Chana at absolutefeminine.com. Shira is Shira, Sheera at absolutefeminine.com. And if you have questions also, you're welcome to WhatsApp me at this point because it is getting very close to the beginning. And no pressure, you can always join afterwards and listen to the recording. But of course, it's always best when you can be on live. So I'm just going to put in my number here. Yes, I'm doing that. You are welcome to message me any questions that you have, challenges, fears, and we're totally, totally here for you. Right? We are totally here to help you figure out if this is the right step, and if so, how you can make that possible. Right? We have different payment options. We have ways to support you. And Shira, is there anything that you'd like to say before we finish off?
Yeah, I sort of wanted to touch on something small, not small, but like
Please.
not go into it, but just I was going through a lot of physical things, headaches and different, like I don't know how to say it, like body, like my body was reacting
Physiological?
to the stress. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm like, it's almost like non-existent now.
Wow.
Yeah, like just a lot of things. I don't want to like share everything, but I went to a lot of different people who figure out like what you shouldn't eat to help you feel better. And really, like it wasn't the food, like it was just coming out in different ways, and like my body kept reacting in different areas of my life.
Wow. It is so true. There is so much that stress does to our bodies, right? Stress is the only proven thing to cause problems in our body. And when we're feeling stress, and so much stress comes from fear and feeling stuck,
Yes,
that
fear.
often manifests itself in different areas of our lives and in different areas of our body. And it is amazing how when we feel that we have the tools and we feel that we can move forward and we don't feel stuck, that our stress levels come way down. And that can make such an impact for us. I'll share a story that just happened like literally last Tuesday, I was driving in the entrance of the city of Yerushalayim. So if you know what I'm talking about, like very busy, like 4-lane place, like, you make a right to the Begin and you make a left to Givat Shaul, you make a straight and you're on like Kvish Achad, like crazy 4-lane traffic, and 3 lanes over from the side, I'm in the car with one of my teenage daughters, and the car just died. Like it literally died. That was it. Like you couldn't move it. Thank God, right before it died. The air conditioning seemed to be turning off. So my daughter opened a window. Like, thank God we had a window open. It was totally dead. And, there's cars all around us honking and like, get out of the way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot move this car. And I had no idea what to do. So we called my husband and I'm like, the car's dead. It's just dead. I don't know what to do. And he's like, get over to the side of the road. And I'm like, I can't get over to the side of the road. There's just, you don't understand. There's like lanes of cars just driving past me. And I felt literally stuck. I was literally stuck on the road. Right? I could not get over and I had no idea what to do. And that was the scariest part. The scariest thing was not having any idea, like, what do I do right now? And I just kept saying that to my husband. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And he's trying to tell me. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. I'm in the middle of the road. And he's like, just go, like, put your head out the door and like, talk to the person sitting next to you in the car next to you and tell them you need to get over. And like, Baruch Hashem, it was actually a tow truck driver. And he called his tow truck friend to come rescue us. And then another car came from the area and helped us get over to the side of the road. And I'm telling you, as soon as that, he said, just talk to the person next to you. And as soon as it was a tow truck driver who came and parked in front of us and just said, everything's going to be okay. Let them honk. I'm calling you a tow truck driver. I was so calm. And it became an adventure that me and my daughter had fun on. Like, we enjoyed this adventure. I got to drive in a big tow truck. Like, we had a good time. Why? As soon as I knew what to do, I didn't feel any more stress. But before I knew what to do, when I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm in the middle of the road and I can't move, that's when my stress levels were so high. That's when I couldn't be who I wanted to be. I couldn't even talk nicely to my husband. I couldn't deal with anything because I felt so stuck. But as soon as I didn't feel stuck anymore, as soon as I knew what to do, even though it was still happening, I was still in the middle of 4 lanes of crazy traffic, like cars just zooming past me. I could be calm and I could laugh and I could be in joy because I knew what to do. Right. And that is the difference that having the tools makes in our lives. It doesn't mean that we don't have our ups and downs. It doesn't mean that we never have fights or issues or struggles. That's just part of life, part of being in a relationship with someone, part of the realities of the world. There's going to, please God, it should all be sweet and good. But there's stuff happening. But when we have the tools, when we know what to do, the stress levels can come down. The walls can come down. And when the walls come down between us, we can build walls around us and really create intimacy and safety and connection with whoever, with our husbands, with our kids, with ourselves, with Hashem, with everyone, because we're not in stress. Then we can think and be the women that we really want to be. So thank you, Shira, for sharing that and bringing up this important point. Anything else that you'd like to bring up? All good? Okay, amazing. So I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you. You get to experience what it's like to be an absolutely feminine because you have my number and you can reach out to me and have me in your pocket. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out. And we look forward to hearing from you. So thank you all for being here. I look forward to connecting with you all as much as I can. As I said, someone's asking how much is the program. As I said before, I don't like to mention numbers on a call because of the fact that everyone's got their money stories. So I'm happy to tell you it is not a secret. It is not something I'm ashamed of. It is not something that I, have issues telling you. I just speak also because there's so many different payment plans and options. It's and as soon as people hear numbers, their mind shut down. The best thing is if you want to talk about it, to send me a message or for us to book a call to talk about it together so that then we can discuss it. And I can coach you through anything that comes up, any questions, any concerns, any fears that you may have. Okay, because as we talked about today in our mastery call, money brings up all our fears, whether it's spending money or charging money. There's a lot of fear that comes up around the topic of money. It's a very interesting thing. And so, as please God, your coach, I want to be able to support you. I already feel like I'm your coach. If you're here, I'm coaching you. So as your coach, I want to be able to coach you through your fears instead of like leaving you to deal with them on your own, because I know how powerful our fears can be and how powerful it is when we can work through our fears. Okay, so thank you all for being here. And again, happy to hear from you. And until we speak next time, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Goodbye for now, everyone.